We are back in Darley, where 2 weeks ago we pulled a beehive out of the floor in this house, and we had the queen and everything, so we knew we got the bees out. Unfortunately, they hadn't gotten around to covering the vents, and like that one was, and as such 3 days ago a swarm moved in, attracted to the pheromones left behind. It's probably the quickest move back in that I've experienced myself, but yeah, less than 2 weeks, and they had an upper hive in their wall. So they're not in the floor this time. They couldn't get into the floor cavity because we'd filled that with rags. They're in the wall cavity, so we're going to pull some bricks out, use some of the rags to fill up around the hive. Because it was a swarm, we'll use the bee vac from the get-go and just bee vac as many of the bees into the hive as we can, and whatever they've built in the last 3 days we'll then cut and frame into another box. But for the time being we're just going to bee vac as many of the bees as we can, aiming to catch the queen. Okay, the heat of the sun's starting to warm up the bricks, so it's getting hard to see, but just to give you an indicator, there's the bulk of the bees, that brighter patch there. So I've got to pull out bricks around them. There we go. I've now done all the cuts I need to in the mortar. You can see mortar's being removed in a rather large area around the hive. For those interested, I use an Arbitec, which is a brick and mortar cutter. That way we can usually get the bricks out without them breaking, unless they're already broken. So there we go. Looking good. There we go, we've pulled out the bottom rung, and you can see the hive there. They have already been building very fast in the last 3 days. Golly Golly. This gives a better view. Got the next run of bricks out. So I'm now going, before I start pulling any more bricks, I'll put what little rags we've got down below the hive so nothing drops while we're working. I've put the rags in loosely, just because there's not enough. She used most of what she had on the last beehive relocation, so the neighbours said I'll have a look, see if they can find anything. So hopefully they do, because we just don't have enough. There is a big quilt there, but that just won't work unfortunately. So we'll progress from here, get the rest of the bricks out. We've got most of the bricks out, 2 to go, but as can be seen with this piece of comb, the bees have built on residual comb that was left in from the last hive. They have built a lot in the last few days though. You can see all that fresh white comb off to the right and then down here at the bottom, but they had a starting point. So the hive, the original hive, was a lot bigger than anticipated, that's for sure. There we go, so that's more of the hive. Most of that is brand new except for a section up there in the top left. The other piece had actually dropped away, so I was lucky I had those few rags there that at least stopped bees falling all the way down the cavity and making life a nightmare. Doesn't look like we've progressed into this second chamber very deeply yet, so we'll be able to get to it all from out here. I've bee vac'd a lot of bees and still a heap to go. We've gotten the bottom out, clearly. There, we'll now work onto the top section. Every relocation has its own little idiosyncrasies. This one is the gap right there where bees can go up and travel across. So I'll get the comb out, might actually have to take another layer of bricks out, which is annoying, and then we'll use the eucalyptus oil again to get the bees to move out of that gap. I've taken the extra 2 bricks out. Obviously I've cut more comb. A heap of bees in here. I'm hoping, like anything, that the queen is in this clump, because unfortunately there's a heap of bees over here as well, so I'm going to have to take out at least those 2 as well to get to them, and I'll have to be using eucalyptus oil because the bees are in the gaps and whatnot. But the first part's just to get the bulk of them and hope I get the queen first. As you can see, I've devacked the majority of the bees here. The ones running around are fresh to the cavity. I honestly do not know if I have the queen. We have way too many bees over here. I need some rags to get some eucalyptus oil into these things. Might even have to pinch some of the ones just that we used on the last cutout, but I'll pull out a couple of bricks and just see what's happening over here. There we go, that's also an old hive that was in here. So this house has had a lot of old hives. Come and say hello to it over the years. I'll now just go see if the neighbour did get some rags for us, and I'll get the eucalyptus oil. But I won't need to take any more bricks out. The remaining bees are just in the gap. Okie dokies. I was hoping to squeeze thin rags coated in eucalyptus oil into the gaps, but I just couldn't get them thin enough, so it's all good. I've poured eucalyptus there, through a sock coated in eucalyptus oil there. The bees came out en masse out of that crevice, but queen wasn't there, so I'm guessing I've blindly vacuumed her. This sort of job, it's really hard to keep a track of the queen and catch her without getting her in the bee vac, just because there's too many gaps, too many crevices, and you're just blind vacuuming a lot of the time. There are bees flying around absolutely everywhere. Most of them are robber bees, as you can see. The spilled honey brought heaps of bees in, and they're not all from this hive, that's for sure. I'm at that point where there's not really anything else I can do. The cavity needs to be filled up, but we don't have the rags to do it, so yeah, it needs to be done before the repairs are done. But anyway, we'll start to pack up and just keep an eye on things. There we go. There's the odd bee or two, but there's no evidence of queen still being here. So yeah, we'll just leave it there. There's going to be bees that missed out, but I've got a heap of bees, so and I'll be putting the eggs that she's laid in the hive when I get it to quarantine. So if by some weirdness we haven't got the queen, they'll make a new one. But I ran the walls with a thermal camera just to make sure there was no bees higher up. There's no evidence of that, so I'd be amazed if I don't actually have the queen. It's just one of those weird ones where she was too hard to keep a track of. There we go. Lots of bees trying to get into the box, but I'm not seeing any fanning where bees put their bud in the air and flap their wings, telling the other bees, hey, this is where the queen is. So It's all very odd. There's heaps of eggs in the comb. We got 5 frames of honey and eggs, 4 or 5. So yeah, I'll unite them when we get to quarantine and have a closer look then. We're here at the quarantine apiary. Oh, just dropped a thing. There's some of the other cutouts. There a couple more up the hill. Anyway, we'll just sort out this comb, get it into the hive, and then close it up. There we go. The 4 frames are in there. The bees won't really come out en masse at the moment, just the temperature's dropping. So yeah, we'll get to that. I'm going to play with this hive now. Just need to release the queen from yesterday's relocation out of the queen clip. Actually, no, it was this one. Losing track of things. That one was yesterday's relocation. Need to release the queen. That one was the one I did 2 weeks ago that was in the same building as this one. So, and they're all happily flying and doing their thing. So there we go.